Well, there's all kinds of variations of squat, but generally working toward the one limb on this, the one-legged squat or
Sure.
pistol is going to be where I want to see people going, where I
Yeah.
like to go myself. And once again, this is something I couldn't do at all at the beginning.
Right.
My flexibility wasn't great. I had to go through the steps to do it. But here, once again, using the box squat is going to be one of the best ways to
Right.
work up to doing pistols. And from there, I mean, there's other forms in all this stuff. What I like to have multiple different tools. There's not just one way to progress from point A to point B.
Right.
You can use several different ways, and different ways are going to work better or worse for different people. So you can use the box pistol, using a counterweight, and then using less and less weight for the counterweight can
Sure.
help. Just working on things like the close squat with the legs together. That's a tremendous exercise. If you can do that real well, then likely you're going to be able to get to the pistol pretty quickly because it's really more than strength. Most people don't have the flexibility in order to do the exercise. So there's multiple different ways you can get towards this movement.
Yeah, I like the box squat progression myself. After I work on, balance and form and everything moving properly, I'll box squat people all the way down to the ground.
Yep.
And it can take, it can take a couple months, it can take a year, but everybody I train is working towards that one-legged squat. Not because I think it's necessarily like the greatest exercise in the world. I think it's a fantastic lower body exercise, but it's a really good display of flexibility, balance, coordination, and strength all at the same time. And that's what you want when you stumble off a curb or like start to fall down the
Yeah.
stairs or whatever. You want those legs that can do that kind of thing. All right, so
As far as building strength, with the lower body, you can get to the pistol and you can do weighted versions of
sure.
it. You can do explosive versions, and that's all good. But and I think some time should be spent on that. But it's really not quite the same as the upper body, where in some ways working with weights in the lower body can be a little bit more beneficial. But it entirely depends on what you're going for. And I think
Sure.
overall you want to be able to do both.
Yeah, I completely agree. All right, let's get to everybody's favorite topic, the abs. All right. And so, I mean, obviously, if you guys are listening to this, you guys know me already. I love progressive ab movements. I think that if
Hmm.
you're not progressively training your abs, you're missing the boat. We all love ab exercise workouts that are 4 minutes long that pump up our abs. But if there's no rhyme or reason to progression, if you're not making those workouts harder, you're really missing the boat on this one. So, Logan, how do we train our abs in a progressive way?
All right.
And what do we
I
need
will
for it?
say for myself, I'm guilty of this in the past, focusing on all these other exercises, but not really devoting specific time to abdominal work. That's a big mistake because if you think about it, every exercise, if you don't have that foundational core strength, then you're not going to be as strong as you possibly can be. So I was actually stoked in writing this new book. I realized like, wow, I've not been focusing on these exercises as much as I really should be doing. So
Sure.
that kind of lit a fire under my butt to really pick up the pace on what I'm doing, focus a lot more on these. People tend to use abs as an afterthought in the workout, just finish off with the abs, but really I'm like thinking now it should be like the first thing you go for. And, it'll be a little bit tougher the rest of your workout because you'll see how much your abs are working in those other exercises if you tire them out with specific ab training first off. So with the abs, there are two main exercises that I really love that have a bunch of forms of progression in, and that is doing the hanging leg raises
Hmm.
and ab wheel rollouts.
Yeah, those are two killer
Yeah.
exercises. So
Yeah.
where do we start? Let's say I don't have an ab wheel. I can't do a rollout. If I did have an ab wheel, hanging leg
Okay.
raise
Yeah.
looks impossible to me.
Well, the hanging leg raise is really quite a simple progression.
Sure.
You start with hanging knee raises, and I just like to break it down into a 45-degree raise, a 90-degree raise, a 135-degree raise, and then a full raise. And you
Yeah.
do this with the knees, and then you straighten out your legs and do it with the legs. And if you're actually doing 135 or full knee raises, that's going to be harder than the 45-degree leg raise.
Sure.
So you'll figure out when you want to jump to the next level. But just following that progression, you're going to get to full leg raises pretty easily. There are more advanced things like working on that dynamic flexibility, which makes the exercise much more harder. You
Right.
can also, one of my favorite exercises I've been playing with lately is one arm hanging leg raise
Right.
becomes very difficult to do, especially because you can't lean back so much in that exercise. You need that dynamic flexibility. So if you're trying to go a full one arm hanging leg raise, it's a pretty challenging movement.
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great way to progress it, Logan. I mean, that makes it so simple. It's just literally how many degrees of motion can you lift your legs? Because
Yeah.
everybody can hang from a bar, probably,
Yeah, I mean, if
right?
you need to start there and build that hanging strength, that's fine. I mean, they have those straps. You don't want to rely on those, but yeah, if you have that basic hanging strength, which can be worked on progressively like anything else, then
Yeah.
yeah, just go. You got four ranges of motion. If you wanted to, you could break it down into smaller chunks, but I find those four are enough, and this build up the reps you can do.
Totally. Okay, so the ab rollout, that's another drill that's eluded me for many, many years. If you guys don't know what an ab rollout is, you've seen those ab wheels or those commercials with those ab rollers. It's where you roll all the way out till your arms are overhead and back. And what Logan's referring to is the one where you keep it on your toes. So you're not on your knees,
A full
you're on your
standing
toes.
rollout.
Full standing rollout, which is
Yes.
an impressive skill to master.
Yeah, I haven't quite got it myself. At 6'2", it's a bit more challenging for me than for other people.
No excuses.
Exactly. I'm working towards it. And even if you don't have an ab wheel, you can get started with this movement basically doing a Superman push-up or Superman plank where your hands are completely outstretched over your head, and you can do all different degrees of this. Just doing a walkout where you start from a forward bend position, walk your hands out as far as you can go, and walk back. You're basically working the same uh, exercise as the rollout. You're just doing it on your hands, which is going to be more stable than the ab wheel. Thus, it's much easier to do in this manner. Then from there, once you get an ab wheel, just doing the kneeling rollouts, you want to build a good base with that. The hard part is the jump from the kneeling rollout to a standing rollout is a big jump, and there's no easy way to progress with that movement. I actually just built a device, and by built I mean I screwed in a couple hooks on a plank of wood, and I've attached that to my power rack where I can move the pins up and down. This way I can do elevated standing rollouts to any degree, and the elevation is going to make it much easier to do. So since building this, I find this is hands down the best way to make progress with the standing rollout, because you can just incrementally make it much easier. You're getting a real feel for the position because you're in the standing, but you have the elevation there to help you. If you don't have this setup, which really doesn't take that much to do, you can do like rollouts on a hill. The problem is finding the different degrees of incline on the hill in order to make it progressive. So since building this and working with it, I absolutely love it as an exercise and form of progression that will get me to that full standing rollout.
That's radical, man. I got to build me one of those because
Yeah.
I've been thinking about that for a long time, is playing with the angle rather than specifically playing with the movement progression itself. And
There's some other things you can do, like rolling out to a measurement and back, but it's
that
just
never
tough
worked
to
for
do
me.
and you lose it sometimes. So there are some other ways to go, but this is hands down, having tried all sorts of different things, the best way to go, in my opinion.
Awesome. Awesome, man. So let's say somebody's trying to put together their bodyweight routine right now. They've already listened to us talk about some progressions. Maybe give us like a simple example of like a 3-day-a-week thing they could do, and just cookie cutter, straightforward they could do to follow some of these bodyweight movements here.
Okay, so find where you're at in the different things we talked about. So let's say you can do push-ups, you can do like a couple reps and pull-ups, you can do hanging leg raises to 90 degrees, and you're working towards a pistol. See, that's the thing. In developing a plan, it's going to depend where you are in certain ones. So if you just want to like say, hey, I'm going to do 3 sets of 10 once again with each of these exercises, so you do it with the push-ups, then just try to build up to that next level of progression. With the pull-ups, let's say you can only manage a couple reps, so maybe you want to make it easier, still continue doing some band assisted pull-ups, and of course there are some other ways you can work that as well, and occasionally doing those singles. If you do, just you don't need to go all out. You don't need to train to failure at all. In fact, I think in many cases it can be counterproductive. If you're just training the exercises, you should be getting better in them. So just do each of those exercises. If you're not training very hard, then you can train all of these different exercises every other day.
Okay.
Probably no problem at all. So 3 times a week, if that works for you. Then just do a few sets of each thing. Wave the load and the progressive step you're doing up and down, and then just you'll continue to improve.
Awesome, man. Well, Logan is a progressive movement practitioner. He's a progressive thinker, as you guys can see on the call already. And he's got a lot of progressive products as well. So Logan, I'm going to put a link below the show notes. You guys can check out some of the stuff. One thing that's unique about Logan's stuff is he writes real books, right? So, you know, all of us out there selling ebooks and videos and stuff like that, Logan's got a lot of real products, partially because he's been online for such a long period of time that's what they used to do back in the day. So you guys can check that out. He's got a lot of cool stuff. You know, cruise through his webpage and see if there's anything you resonate with and check it out. So Logan, awesome job, man. Thanks for coming on the call and sharing with us kind of these basic body weight training tips and these movement progression tips. So I appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy to be here. Happy to help out.